Hey everybody, welcome to Off the Shelf Board Game Reviews. This video is part of a series of videos looking at Kemet, Blood and Sand. In this video, I'm actually going to do some comparisons between the classic first edition of Classic Kemet and Kemet, Blood and Sand, which is a 2.0 version of the game. Yes, there are some differences between the games, and it's very easy for you, especially if you own the prior edition of the game, to sit back and say, do I want to spend the money to rebuy an admittedly great and classic area-controlled dudes on a map game? Is it worth the upgrade, or is it just basically all bling? And we all know that, generally speaking, when it comes to just bling, you don't have to buy the new version of the game, especially if not much is different. But are there differences between first and second edition? Well, that's what I'm going to discuss here in this video. And hopefully I can give you enough information on this video for you to make a decision that's going to allow you to decide if you need to upgrade, or if you're happy sticking with the first edition of Kemet. Now, Kemet, Blood and Sand has done a couple really good positives. I'm just going to make this a really nice and easy positives and negatives video. That way it's nice and easy for you to figure out what you want if this is what's good for you. Let's start with the positives here. One of the great positives about the game is that they've nicely cleaned up the rulebook. The game itself has also been cleaned up. Originally, the game of Kemet was kind of like the game flow didn't really work with the original version of the rulebook. They did come out with a better version of the rulebook, but they've actually cleaned up the rulebook quite a bit now. It's very easy to understand the rules. The game rulebook is nice and clean, and it's nice and direct. It tells you exactly how to set up everything, and then it goes in all the actions you can do on your turn, and then it goes into explain combat, and it's nice and quick and easy, and there's nice, even big glossary at the end of the book. It's a nice addition to the game, and it's something that is great that they did. It made the game, if you had difficulties with the original version of the rulebook, you're going to be very happy with what you got here. Matter of fact, I only have one small minor negative with the rulebook here, and it's the fact that the rulebook doesn't really explain the difference between kills and blood drops for somebody who's never played the prior edition of the game. Now, if somebody's played the prior edition of the game, you know exactly what it is. It's new symbols, but you understand what the rules are. But for somebody who's never played the game before, they may have a couple questions about that because they don't really explain the symbols really well there, and I think they could have did better there. But other than that, it's not a big deal. I think if you actually read, you'll figure it out, especially if you pull out divine intervention cards and everything like that. But they've done a great job of improving the rulebook here. Now, the end game for itself also feels a lot cleaner now. Back in the first edition of the game, it was very possible to have an extra round, which was kind of a superfluous round, where you really didn't need to have it. It was basically you're playing around, kind of knowing what was going to happen, but the game kind of forced you to do that. They've cleaned up the rules and cleaned up the end game now, so now it is the person who starts their turn with 9 or more victory points. As long as they have more victory points than anybody, obviously if somebody starts with 9 and another player has 9 victory points, they're not going to win the game. You have to start your turn with 9 victory points and have more than anybody else. So basically if somebody else has 9, you have to start your turn with 10. If you don't start your turn, you're going to do all your actions and the next player is going to go. That's a nice, clean, updated version of the rules, and I really like it. It prevents that final kind of worthless turn from happening where the person who knows they can't win is basically going, yeah, I'm just basically going to king make at this point, or I'm basically wasting my turn, there's my action, you guys all, one of you go win the game. I've also liked the fact that they've upgraded some of the looks of the game. They've made it much easier to determine the difference between the day and the night phase for all the symbols. It's a nice, very easy look on the cards. You have your nice day phase right there. You have your nice combat phase symbol on there for the divine intervention cards. That's very easy to see that that's a movement card right there. So it's much easier to figure out when these actions are going to occur. I like that. It was a wonderful inclusion and made it look a little bit cleaner. I'm glad they did that and cleaned up that kind of graphical abilities for the game of Kemet. Now, there's been some really nice upgrades to the rules for the game also that are different from the first edition of the game. Now, every single player is going to start with 3 divine intervention cards. Now, granted, 2 of them are random and one of them is the same divine intervention card that every single player is going to start with. But I love that inclusion of that one divine intervention card because it is basically 100% a bluff card. It has no powers, no abilities. It's a divine intervention card that does absolutely nothing. So in the original version of Kemet, whenever you were trying to play a combat card, you kind of had to sneak a divine intervention card back behind the card and hope the other player didn't see you do it. Well, they did. Unless you were just like staring at the wall when the other player did it, you're going to know when somebody's playing divine intervention card, unless you're just absolutely not paying attention. Now you have this blank divine intervention card where you're simply going to go and play it. And now the other player across the table is going to look at you and say, okay, was that your bluff divine intervention or is that a real divine intervention? Okay, that's a real divine intervention. I may not win this fight. Okay, maybe I want to play this combat card instead. No, wait, you're bluffing. No, wait, you can't be bluffing. Okay, I see a more, oh man, and then it creates this extra deep tactical strategy and again, the mind game of Kemet, which I so greatly enjoy. It's a great inclusion and it seems so minor, but it's good. Not only that, since every single player starts with 2 divine intervention cards, it kind of gives a boost to the early game economy. You don't feel like the first couple rounds of the game are people just building up because you start built up. On top of that, every single player is going to start with 1 level 1 power. Again, that gets the game rolling faster. It makes you feel like you're getting into the game. You don't feel like you're wasting the first couple rounds, wasting actions, and trying to build up because you're already built up. On top of that, every single first round now, every single player is going to start with 7 power instead of 5. Again, adding to that feel of there's not that wasted first couple actions of every single game where players are just slowly building up. You're in the fray, which is one of the things that Kemet is so great about, and they basically have amped up that part of the game, and that is something I really, really appreciate. They sped up the start of the game and made the whole game feel like it's an intense fighting game, not a slow start where you have a couple wasted rounds. Nope, you're in it to win it right from the beginning. The next rule change that I really, really appreciate now is that when you lose a combat and you're forced to recall troops, you are going to get back power -1. Now, back in the old days, in the first edition of Kemet, if you lost a fight, even if you just lost 1 unit, it was like a no-brainer decision to say, yeah, I'm going to recall. I'm not going to retreat. Why do I want to go back, let you get another victory point when you're going to attack me again next round because there's no way I can defend myself. That's kind of a dumb play. Although it's not always a dumb play. And again, I'm not going to talk strategies, but you know, it's not always a dumb play. But what they've made it now is that if you're going to recall your units, you're going to get the total amount of units recalling -1 in power. So now it's not just a no-brainer kind of decision anymore. If I recall 1 unit, I get nothing for it. But if I retreat it, I'm giving you the potential to get another victory point. So do I pull back and kind of give you a reason to come towards me? Do I pull back knowing that I can reinforce that? Do I pull back kind of laying a trap for you because I'm about to play my 5-2 card, and even if you come after me, get 1 more victory point, I'm going to take out all of your units there because I have that kill card, and then I'm going to move in and take that location I want. So it adds extra depth and extra strategy and more decisions to a game that already has some really good decisions built into it. Now, they also added what are veteran tokens into the game, and I'm really, really enjoying the concept of the veteran tokens because they give you more decisions, and decisions in a game like this are fantastic, especially when they're quick decisions where you're not going to have to sit there and waste a whole bunch of extra gameplay. Basically, what veteran tokens are is they're a little bit of a catch-up mechanic, but I don't feel like they're a catch-up mechanic because they give you decisions versus just saying, yeah, here's some free power, here's some free units, here's some free cards. No, it's all 3 of those things possibly, and those are the things you need to decide on. And it doesn't feel like 100% a catch-up mechanic because they're given to the defender if the defender can win. So now it gives you, the defender, an extra incentive to try to win fights. Before it'd be like, yeah, there's nothing I can do. Why am I even going to waste cards? And I'm just going to retreat and get all my power back. That's not a strategy anymore because now I'd be like going, if I win this as a defender, I'm going to get a veteran token. I'm going to keep my spot. So I really, really do want to fight tooth and nail. So maybe I'm going to burn a couple divine intervention cards because it's actually worth it for me to do so. Because when I get that veteran token during the night phase, I can spend that 1 divine intervention card, or I can go ahead and spend that for a power. So those are more options. I like that. It adds more options, and it's a great upgrade to the rules, and it's a really great decision that I think they made to improve the game. Now, this new 2nd edition combines all the best things that were from the base game and Tassetti into one single box. Basically, what does that mean? That means that you have access to all 4 groups of the power tiles right from the base box now. That's awesome because the 4 power tiles are choices and decisions. It allows you to have more choices when you play the game because instead of just having 3 different power tile groups that you're going to play from the same power tile groups every single time you play the game, right out of the box with the base set, you have a choice and you can mix and match the kind of game you want to play. Do you want to have a much more aggressive game? Go red, black, and blue. Do you want to have a little bit more defensive game? Go black, white, and blue. So those decisions are going to affect the flow of the game and the way you're going to play the game. And again, that adds more replay and more variety of game, giving you much more value for your dollar here. Now, there's also a new color that's been introduced to the game of Kemet, which is very cool, but I can't comment on it at all because I may have said it already in this video, and if I haven't, I'm going to go ahead and say it right here. This is not my copy of Kemet Blood in the Sand. This is a copy of the game I'm actually borrowing from a friend. I didn't back the new Kickstarter, so I'm kind of kicking myself here, but you know, well, that's just the way things go here. But there's a new group of power tiles. They're the green power tiles, and I can't comment on how they work with the game, but I do know that they're going to add some more strategy, more depth. So now we have 5 total different colors to pick from every time we set up the game, and that's adding more variety, and that's really, really cool. And I can't wait till I get the chance to check out those green power tiles. Now, some of the power tiles themselves have been balanced a little bit better. They changed the way the power tiles go. Now, I've played Kemet a lot. It's one of those games I enjoy. Heck, spoiler, it's my top 10 favorite board games of all time. But there were some power tiles that were better than others. I was trying to find a nice way to say it, but there's some power tiles where you're like going, yeah, I'm going to take this power tile because in this point of the game it's a better power tile. Well, they went through and rebalanced some of the power tiles, and while I'm nowhere near going to admit that I played the game enough with the new balance of power tiles, I am happy to say that they are things, which is going to add more people taking more decisions and more looking at seeing if these new power tiles, the way they're new balanced, are going to be worth what they're going to do with their strategies when they're playing the game. Now, just talking about the component quality here itself now, because that's kind of the big obvious thing right here. That was one of the big driving points for the new version of Kemet. Looking at the components, we have some really great decisions here. All of the single miniatures that come with the game, they are now all larger, which means they're much more detailed, which means they look a heck of a lot better on the table. Now, unfortunately, they don't have the little ink wash on them anymore. And I do miss the ink wash, but let's be honest, the ink wash was never that fantastic. It was a little bit slight. You can tell the difference. And most of us are going to take the time to paint these anyways. I mean, especially now that they're larger, they're going to be easier to paint. And I'm not going to lie, I'm really, really tempted to want to paint these, but I can't because it's not my copy. But it looks better. The larger miniatures look awesome on the table, and they fit still quite well on the board, so they look really, really good. Not only that, they've actually made it so every single one of the factions matches a specific god or goddess. So you're basically playing representatives of the god or goddess, which is a really nice touch. And I haven't even covered this yet, but they now have set up the game to become a 6-player game. Removing the magic sandstorm. Now, the components for the 6-player are not available yet, so I'm assuming this is going to become a future expansion. But now Kemet is going to play up to 6 players. That is so damn awesome. I am so excited. I cannot wait till I can play Kemet as a 6-player game. That's going to be nuts. That's going to be crazy. Oh, and it's going to be so awesome. The artwork for the game is still as good as it was before. Now, I'm not going to say the artwork is better. If you look at the board, this is going to be one of the weird ones. The artwork for the board is much more subdued. If you look at the original board, original board looked a little more colorful, but it also looked much more fantastical, had much more of a Stargate feel to it. This kind of feels like a, oh my gosh, I almost said realistic. I don't want to say a realistic board because we know this isn't a realistic board, but it looks like a traditional topographical board. I kind of miss the old board for a couple reasons. One, it was a little bit more colorful. You had these giant images of these giant Anubis statues and everything, which gave it this wonderful feel of Stargate. But I do miss the fact that the board now is single-sided. The original board for Kemet in first edition was double-sided. One side would be used for a 2- and 4-player game. The other side was used for a 3- and 5-player game. And it was kind of nice, preventing you from having to rely on these little pieces of cardboard that would cut off various sections of the board. Now, it's not a terrible loss. It's not a big deal. But I'm not going to lie, I do miss the fact of having the double-sided board before. I thought it was a nice inclusion, and it's an unfortunate loss here, but it's okay. The artwork is different. I'm not going to say it's better. It's not going to be worse. It's a little bit less Stargate-y feel, and now it feels a lot more of like a fantasy-style Egyptian world versus a Stargate world. So maybe that is something you're going to appreciate better, but definitely going to say, look at the artwork on the cards, the artwork on the tiles, the artwork on the player boards, everything. The original Kemet just looked great. So just saying that it looks great again now doesn't really say anything positive, doesn't say anything negative when you're comparing the games. But when you're talking about Kemet itself, yeah, the game still looks really, really great. Now, there's a couple extra things that are really, really cool that they did with the second edition of Kemet. First thing is you're going to notice that every single one of the players' boards are going to have a recess spot, which basically means you don't have to worry about the terror of somebody accidentally bumping the table and your power cube sliding, or you're not putting your power cube down properly and forgetting exactly where it was. If you see right here, it stays in there pretty darn nicely because it's a very nice double-layered board. And additionally, they have the section on the board where you can put in exactly which pyramids you have access to for your empire. It's kind of a nice touch, and you're going to have one of these for every one of the 5 different colors. So if you happen to be playing a blue, white, and red, you're going to use the tokens right here. Let's say you're playing a blue, green, or red. Well, you're going to put the green one down there, letting you know which power tiles you have access to. It's kind of a very nice touch, and I'm glad they did it. And it's another thing I'm a little bit jealous about, but hey, the original version of Kemet and that aspect still plays pretty darn nice. On top of that, you have these wonderful pyramids, which are multi-layered, and you're going to take these pyramids and you're going to build up your pyramid as you build up your pyramid, which is kind of a nice, really cool visual effect. That's obviously a level 2 pyramid. This right here is obviously a level 3 pyramid. And then when you put this on top, it's going to be a level 4 pyramid. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Las Vegas Luxor look to it, but ignoring that, it still looks really, really darn good. One little negative I have, though, is that from a distance across the table, since the difference between a level 3 and a level 4 pyramid is just the fact that the top is going to be flipped over, it's not as easy to see from a quick glance if somebody has a level 3 or level 4 pyramid. It's very easy to be a little bit distracted, not pay close enough attention, and miss the fact that a pyramid is only level 3 or level 4, because it's literally just that little top you're going to flip over. I would have much rather preferred if that the 4th level was another level that looks like this color right here, so you can see that that is obviously a 4th level. Not a big deal, but it's definitely something I would have greatly appreciated. And the final great inclusion for the new edition of Kemet is the fact that every single player, without the need of going to your printer or a scanner or Board Game Geek, is going to get access to their own little cheat sheet, which has all the power tiles, all the divine intervention tiles, and it's a booklet that has all these things for all the different players, and it is really, really awesome. That right there is one of the best inclusions I can almost say for this upgraded version, because you don't have to share that one sheet as you're going, give me the sheet, I need to see what the red power does. No, give me the sheet, I need to see what the black power does. Nope, everybody gets their own little book, and it allows you to play deviously because you're not going to sit back and say, what does that power do? You're just simply going to pull out the book and go, when's it my turn? So that is a great inclusion. I do like that. I am happy they did that for every single one of the players. Now, there's a couple negatives with the new version of Kemet, and one of the negatives is something I'm going to completely ignore, and I'm going to house rule, but I'll cover that in just a second. One of the first things that I've already mentioned is that they lost the wash on the miniatures. Now, again, I don't think it's a big deal. Seriously, it's not. The miniatures look better quality. They're more detailed. They're larger. Most of us, if we're painters, are going to paint that. And if you're painting these miniatures, the wash is kind of pointless and useless because you don't need the wash if you're going to paint right over it. You'll never even miss it. And if you do miss the wash, washing miniatures is super darn easy. There's links to plenty of videos out there. If you want, I can leave a note down in the comments below. I've mentioned on Board Game Geek how easy it is to do this wash on these miniatures. It's about $15 and about an hour of your time to get the wash on everything you want. If that's what you really want, it's super easy to do. It's not a super big loss. I've already mentioned that I'm not a huge fan of losing the double-sided board, but again, it's not a terrible loss. I really don't like overlays because it's easy to bump them and they do get a little bit distracting, so I would have preferred it not. But knowing now that I get to play Kemet as eventually as a 6-player game, I'm okay with it. I can live with that because there really would be no way to do a 6-player game. Well, I guess I probably could have if they went down the math and figured it out, but in the long run, I'm okay with it. I just know I'm not a huge fan of these overlays. It works. It does what it needs to do, but I'm just not the biggest fan of it at all. Now, we're talking about the visual appeal of the game. I'm not going to lie. I miss the old 4-sided dice. There was a certain kind of interesting elegance of the old 4-sided dice. They were cool. They looked nice. They were these larger-than-life standard size or larger than standard size 4-sided dice. It was very easy at a glance to look across the table and say, level 3 pyramid, level 2 pyramid, level 2 pyramid, ooh, level 4 pyramid. It was very easy to see it from a glance across the table without having to worry about this little Luxor pyramid top here. And I really, really do miss it. I mean, I think I'm probably going to go back to using those 4-sided dice because I still have them and I still have the original version of Kemet. So when this version of Blood and Sand comes out, I'm probably going to pull this out because I just think they look nice and clean on the board. Yeah, these pyramids are nicely 3D printed, or not 3D printed, but they're nicely 3D designed, but I miss those old dice. I don't know why. To me, they just look better. And now we come to the really big, true negative I have with the newest version of Kemet Blood and Sand, and a thing I am going to quickly house rule. In the new version of Kemet Blood and Sand, in a 2-player game, you're picking 2 different colors of power tiles. Not 2 different colors of power tiles per player, total for the entire game. And in a 3-player game, and in a 4-player game, you're picking 3 different colors of power tiles for the entire game. Not just for your faction, for the entire game. It doesn't get until you get to a 5-player game where you're going to gain access to all 4 different colors of the power tiles. To me, this is a big miss when it comes to one of the greatest things about Kemet, was the very starting asymmetry right out of the gate from the basic game. Right now, they've taken away all that asymmetry for the basic game beyond the divine intervention cards that you're going to start with, and I really do miss it. It was fantastic to have access to all 4 colors in the base game, and before the game started, you're going to look at all the 4 colors and say, I think I'm going to go a red, blue, black strategy, and those are the strategy I'm going to do. And the next player across from you, you're going to go red, blue, black? I'm going to go blue, black, red. Okay. What are you going to go for? Well, I'm going to go white, blue, black. What are you going to go for? I'm going to go white, red, black. And that allowed all the players to play asymmetric. Not only that, you can go, you notice you're the only person at the table who picked white. You know, that means that all of us are going to gun for you. Oh, that's a big thing. So that kind of creates some extra strategy, some extra tactics, and I really do miss that with this game. I miss it to the point that anytime I play Kemet Blood and Sand, I'm going to include that old rule. 2, 3, 4, or 5, or eventually 6 players, we're going to have access to all 4, or maybe even eventually all 5 colors. We'll go ahead and give that a try. I don't know if that's going to be majorly outbalanced, because again, I haven't seen the green power tiles, so I can't comment on them at all. But I think it's fantastic for the game to start asymmetric right from the beginning, because one player says, these are my 3 colors. This player says, these are my 3 colors. This player says, these are my 3 colors. And it incentivizes you on how you're going to play the game, because you're going to sit there and say, wow, you're the only person with white, I need white, or you're the only person over there with green, I need green, or you're the person over there that has the 2 colors I need. It incentivizes me to go attack you, get a silver disc so I can make sure I get 2 actions in 1 turn. First action is going to be move into your pyramid, attack, take the area. Second action is going to be to buy the tile from the color that I want, that you control, and that gives me some extra options and some extra agency when I play the game. I miss that, and every time I play Kemet Blood and Sand, I'm going to make sure 2, 3, 4, 5 players, doesn't matter, we're going to make sure we include all the colors, because that is the way we like to play. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this video series covering Kemet Blood and Sand. If you have any comments or questions, make sure you leave them down in the YouTube comments down below. I'll get to them as quickly as I can. You can also feel free to email me at offtheshelfboardgamereviews. That's otsbgr@gmail.com. Be sure to answer your email as quickly as I can. If you enjoy this channel, if you enjoy the content, and the content I bring out here has helped you to spend your gaming dollars wisely, think about tossing $1 over in the tip jar over at Patreon at patreon.com/otsbgr. Just $1 in the tip jar can help me cover my costs. I don't do any Kickstarters. I don't do any gimmicks. I basically run this entire channel on the honor system. If I helped you save a couple bucks, think about tossing $1 in the tip jar. Help me cover my costs and help the channel going and keep the channel going strong. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this video series, click that like button, click that subscribe button, and as always, thanks for watching.